Hi there, I'm Dr. Peter Sacco, former psychologist and psychology professor, now film director, producer, cinematographer, and of course author. I've always been intrigued by horror and fear. Why is it that people are afraid of certain things? Or why do they like to be afraid? In fact, years ago, for Comic-Cons, I created what was called the Haunted Horror Village, which featured 25 famous haunted homes from famous, favorite, scary horror films. And it was seen all around the world. And I would ask people, why do you like horror movies so much? And they would say, I just like the adrenaline rush. I like to be afraid. With that said, there is also what some people in my field of psychology would call irrational fears, that is, phobias. And interestingly, two of the most misguided, misunderstood phobias are fears of clowns and, of course, this guy even, Santa Claus. Why are people afraid of clowns? And why are people afraid of Santa Claus? Sit back, relax, and I will try to shed light on this matter and give you a little bit of insight and understanding as to why people are afraid of clowns and St. Nicholas. And oh yeah, how does that famous saying kind of go by Tommy DeVito in Goodfellas? I mean funny like a clown? Do I amuse you? How amused are you by clowns and Santa Claus? Or how afraid are you of clowns and perhaps Santa Claus?
Today, more people suffer from or possess specific phobias, which in some cases rule their lives. Interestingly, when you ask most people why they possess a specific phobia, they can't tell you why or where it came from in the first place. So, where do phobias come from? And for that matter, what is a phobia? A phobia is best classified as an irrational fear to a specific object or thing, a situation, or an experience. Of course, you will hear that the most common phobias one fears are heights, water, enclosed places and spaces, public speaking, spiders, snakes, flying, and of course, blood. Anything or any situation could potentially lead to a phobia, but it depends on the individual, their interpretation of the event, and of course, the situation in general. So, what causes a phobia? A phobia is generally caused by an event or a situation which is perceived to be negative or even traumatic. The event or the object within the event that a person has experienced was understood as being threatening, or it caused some degree of psychological or physiological discomfort. Interestingly, phobias can also be generated by proxy. This means that an individual need not necessarily experience the event firsthand to develop that phobia, but yet they develop the phobia by seeing it on television, reading about it in the media, or they are forewarned by a parent, a sibling, or a role model. In fact, the great psychologist Albert Bandura described this process in his social learning theory, whereby people observe someone of interest or integrity to them and they start to mimic their behavior. And then after a while, if the behavior goes unchallenged, they keep it.
Let's look at clowns first, now that you understand how phobias are created and sort of come about. Even scarier, imagine this, a Santa clown.
A fear of clowns is definitely no laughing matter. You have heard sayings such as, "Stop being a class clown," "You clown," "Quit clowning around," "This place is a circus," and on and on. But what about people who are really afraid of clowns? Coulrophobia is a phobia associated with fear of clowns, which is a widely acknowledged phenomenon. In fact, studies indicate that this fear is present among both children and adults right across cultures around the world. 5% of people report that they are extremely afraid of clowns. Interestingly, this percentage reporting in terms of being afraid of clowns is higher than many phobias, including fear of animals, fear of blood, fear of heights, etc. It has also been found that women are more afraid of clowns than men. And the reason for this difference is not quite clear. But what the research shows is that coulrophobia does, in fact, decrease with age. Fear of clowns really gained traction when the great TV show in the 1960s Batman came out with Cesar Romero playing the villain, the Joker, who of course was a clown. Add to it Stephen King's book It, with his terrifying Pennywise, the killer clown, serial killer John Wayne Gacy dressing up as Pogo the Clown for children's events, and of course the very creepy cult movie from the 1980s called Killer Clowns from Outer Space. If that movie doesn't give you clown creeps, then maybe even Ronald McDonald will. And then you can see how we were off and running with this fear of clowns. So what is it about clowns that is so unsettling and so frightful? Well, first of all, they are eerie because of the makeup, which makes them look not quite human. You also get this response, which is oftentimes seen in some dolls or mannequins and even puppets. Clowns have exaggerated facial features which convey a direct sense of threat. The clown makeup also hides emotional signals and creates uncertainty when you're around them. The color of clown makeup reminds us of death, infection, or blood injury, and this evokes disgust or avoidance because it just is creepy. Clowns also have and display very unpredictable behavior, which makes people uncomfortable, especially at a circus. A fear of clowns has also been learned from family members. Social learning theory, monkey see, monkey do. Dad's afraid of clowns? Well, I'm going to be afraid of clowns. Also, there is the negative portrayal of clowns in popular culture, especially disturbing, creepy, frightening movies. And it could be basically as simple as an individual who had a frightening experience with a clown. Many people had never encountered a real clown in real life, therefore they had no reason to be afraid.
Okay, there you have it for clowns. Now we will put good old Saint Nick on the hot seat and see why people are afraid of Mr. Ho Ho Ho.
Jonathan Piccoli, a staff psychologist at Children's Memorial Hospital, Chicago, asserts that there is indeed what is called Santaphobia and that it is real. According to Piccoli, some children become so distressed seeing a person dressed as Santa that they suffer anxiety. First off, the beard scares many children when they see Santa Claus. Just imagine if they saw ZZ Top in their heyday. Since the beard covers most of his face, that is Santa Claus, kids have a hard time seeing Santa's face. They see a nose, small eyes under a bushy set of eyebrows, and of course, the ruby red cheeks. They don't see a mouth. And kids are highly visual, and they like to watch someone as they are speaking. Interestingly, there is a phobia called pogonophobia, which is the fear of beards. So, can someone actually be terrified of seeing other people who have beards? The answer is yes. The entertainment industry, that is, movies, books, comics, video games, etc., come into play here. In the past, villains are often made to look more menacing by having beards. Blackbeard the Pirate is a good example. Beards gave the individual a more evil look, which makes them unapproachable. A second telling feature is the white gloves that Santa wears. Kids usually have their first and subsequent experiences with white gloves when they are in the presence of doctors or nurses. When visiting the medical office with mom or dad, if the doctor or nurse wearing those white gloves was giving them a needle or some other uncomfortable procedure, they immediately begin to associate the gloves with unpleasant experiences. Then there is the laughter.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!
Most kids are not around parents, teachers, or adults who laugh like Santa Claus. The ho, 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 coming from a deep-pitched voice in men, may seem like an overwhelmingly resonating sound, and this can intimidate a young child, especially if they have some association to the sound of the voice resembling a monster from a television show or a movie. Children are also only really exposed to Santa Claus once a year, with nearly 360 to 365 days in between before seeing him again. It is not like seeing him in shopping malls all year round, or people dressed like him. Therefore, they are never really desensitized to his appearance and attributes. Furthermore, Santa Claus is also a man. Young kids are taught early in life about stranger danger, and most strangers who are seen as bad still get this misrepresentation of being some unkempt old man with a beard. This stigma for bad strangers never seems to go away. And finally, as if one needed more fuel to throw on the fire in creating Santaphobias, there is the bright red suit. Rarely do you see people wearing suits that intense in color. Red is actually the color associated with aggression and violence. Perhaps at a subliminal level, some kids are disturbed by the deep color of red. And also, just for giggles, if you really think about it, if Santa is coming in through the chimney to leave gifts under the Christmas tree, is this not a man dressed in a red suit with a beard and gloves that is basically breaking and entering?
So folks, there you have it. Fears of clowns and Santa Claus. And I've left these two jokers out on purpose. They're just court jesters, also known as village idiots. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope this sheds a little bit of light onto how not only kids can become afraid of Santa Claus, but also adults into their ripe old ages could be afraid of clowns.
And I love each and every one of you. Keep your rooms clean. That's my message. Oh, oh, oh! Merry Christmas.